Greetings, Roseanneaholics and Rosanna Maniacs. Welcome to Roseanne Retrospectives. I'm Scott.
I'm Blake.
It's Pat over here.
This is the podcast where we venture into the Roseanne subdimension. What is the Roseanne subdimension? Well, in the series finale, the Roseanne subdimension is revealed when we learn that Roseanne has really been writing a book about her life, and what we have been watching is her version of the story. In an effort to distinguish the Roseanne subdimension from the Roseanne reality, we review each episode of the show. Today, we will be talking about Season 1, Episode 2, We're in the Money, also known as The Gift of the Magi for Selfish People. Before we get started, we have a little bit of housekeeping stuff we'd like to talk about, namely an article that appeared recently claiming that the exterior house from the show is up for sale for about $129,000 in Indiana somewhere. Evansville, Indiana. So if you need a place to live in Evansville. Other housekeeping information. Oh, so there's something that we forgot to mention in our first episode that is going to be a runner throughout the first season. The writers thought it would be hilarious if during every episode of the first season, corn is brought up in some way.
In the first episode, Dan tries to make canned corn out of a gigantic can of corn, and Roseanne yells at him, which I like.
Hilarity ensues. So we're going to make sure to point out the corn reference in every episode.
Oh, and in this episode, Roseanne tells Dan that she bought some more corn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now you don't have to listen. Just ruined it for you.
They aren't very clever ways to slip corn into it. They aren't like puns or anything.
They wedge them in.
Yeah.
Moving on, one thing that is a little different about episode 2 compared to episode 1 is the opening credit. Normally we're just going to talk about the opening credits when they change per season, but since there's a little bit of a difference in this one, thought we'd mention it. The entire thing has been reshot with Sal Barone as DJ axed and replaced with Michael Fishman.
And Sal Barone looks a lot more uncomfortable when we rewatched it.
Yes.
He ends the sequence by just walking off stage, whereas in the end of the second episode, Michael Fishman actually hugs Roseanne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's a smarmy little bastard, too.
Well, both DJs are smarmy little bastards.
No, Michael Fishman's way smarmier.
Yeah,
His face, I just want to punch it. I know he's 5. I'm sorry.
He looks like Roseanne, though. Maybe.
Yeah, more so than
Sal Barone does.
Yeah. And of the kids, he probably looks the most like he could be Roseanne's child.
Yeah, I think that Darlene and DJ both look a lot like Roseanne. Mm-hmm. Becky doesn't look like either parent.
Becky's adopted. Becky came from another place.
She is the redheaded.
Jackie's illegitimate child from age 15. In the real zone.
In the real zone. The reality. The Roseanne reality, yeah. Okay. So,
there are a lot of scenes in this episode that just take place in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I think like 90% of it does.
First two scenes, at least. Wait, was it the 4th and 5th, too? I forget.
They go to the living room at some point. They go to the garage.
Yeah, there's a perfume store.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There's 2 scenes.
Oh, there's the work. She's at work.
That's right.
There's work, the garage, and...
the perfume. Yeah.
Right. So there's 3 scenes that don't take place in the kitchen.
Okay.
Kitchen heavy episode though, so you can see a lot of the kitchen. And the lighting has changed for this episode between the pilot and now, so everything has a bluer look. That's like white lighting, I guess.
Yeah,
that's for the lighting nerds.
Yeah, for all you lighting nerds out there, because we know that you're podcast enthusiasts.
All 6,000 of you. Everything looks kind of blue, and it doesn't even look like the same place. We actually had to bring up the first episode and compare it because it looks like the set is entirely redesigned, but it is not.
It's just the lighting.
Yeah.
So, we begin our scene, as we said, in the kitchen. Dan comes in really angry because he can't find any batteries while Darlene is sitting at the table doing math homework. He needs batteries for his flashlight. So he's throwing a tantrum because he can't find them. Becky spills the beans that's because Darlene stole his batteries to use in, I think, a radio. And Darlene is all pissed off because she couldn't get away with lying.
Why didn't she just plug a radio in? Why is she using batteries in her radio?
I don't know.
Me neither. It's weird, Darlene.
I didn't know they had radios that you could run with batteries.
Yeah, they mostly run with batteries. They
It was
C
the
and D
80s.
batteries.
Everything used batteries.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
part of Reaganomics.
Yeah, why didn't she just plug it into her USB charger or something?
And apparently it's a big deal because they don't have a battery charger like every house did in the 80s, I thought.
We didn't.
What? You didn't have a battery charger?
No.
You buy the special rechargeable batteries and you plug them into the battery charger and you can always play your Game Boy. You can don't ever worry about running out.
I wish I knew that about 25 years ago.
Yeah, we had
I could have made out.
We had one, but it was kind of a temporary thing. I remember we used it for a few times, and then it started gathering dust.
Yeah, we used that sucker.
Yeah.
I had no idea it could gather dust.
I said, I'm going to make a
home.
time machine now, and I'm going to go back to 1990, and I'm going to have unlimited Game Boy energy.
Exactly. And Game Gear, because that thing used like 6 AA's.
Oh, yeah. Game Gear had like 8 batteries.
8 AA's.
It sucked those batteries, too.
Yeah, you could play it for approximately 15 minutes.
Okay, so back to the episode. Darlene has been caught in a lie, so DJ's first instinct is to suggest that she is beat.
Something's wrong with DJ, clearly.
What's a weird reference to make, right?
Right.
Why would DJ just come up with where did he get the idea that anybody should be hit?
Well, he's both oddly very childish. We kind of concluded that rattle in the opening scene is probably his, and there are some toys lying about that look like they're for an infant.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also making allusions to people getting beaten.
Right.
So he's seen some stuff in the Connor household.
I know Dan claims they don't hit their children, but where the hell else would DJ get the idea that they were gonna hit her? That they were gonna hit Darlene? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, what's interesting is because we
it's
talk
like they
about,
were just caught by CPS. Sorry, go on.
we talk about hitting and how
CPS hilarious.
In the season finale or in the series finale, Roseanne makes a statement that they never hit their kids. But there's an episode that happens earlier in the series where she hits DJ, and it's a big deal.
Right. When he steals
How
the car.
ironic.
Yeah.
That's ironic.
So we already know that
Considering
she's
what DJ's proposing in this episode.
Well, it's contradictory.
right. Roseanne knows it's not a popular view to say we hit our kids, so she just goes with the opposite view. We don't hit our kids.
So in the Realiverse, what
The Roseanne subdimension.
instead
No,
of
yeah.
wait, the subdimension is the false dimension.
Oh, the
isn't it?
Realiverse is different.
The Realiverse is what really happened. That's why
Okay,
it's called
that
the
makes
Realiverse.
sense.
It's not a subdimension. It's the real dimension.
It's the real dimension.
The real dimension.
The real Roseanne
Real
that we
Roseanne.
don't ever see.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of DJ alluding to Darlene getting hit, she just got hit.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
if so, what did she get hit with?
A hand. Just
Belt,
hand.
the switch, or hand probably. All right.
Okay, the old Viking head from the pilot episode. What about maybe you roped her with that?
Oh yeah, do you ever see that thing again?
No, you do not.
So Darlene tries to deny having stole the batteries, but since Becky has already snitched on her, Roseanne can see right through her lie. Roseanne just tells her, "You're never going to get away with lying," because Roseanne is the queen of lies. She knows a lie as soon as she hears
She's
it.
pretty good at it.
Then Dan is really angry that Darlene's trying to pull this kind of crap off, and he gives this stupid monologue about how she's going to end up poor.
So this is gonna sound silly. He made me. He reminded me of Matt Foley, the guy from Saturday Night Live.
He does.
You're down by the
yeah.
river guy.
He does, yeah. That's kind of what he's.
I mean, it's kind of they're going to the same place.
Yeah, she's gonna end up in an alley chasing
Fighting
him
stray dogs.
for French fries, I guess. Yeah,
I would rather be in a van down by the river than fighting a stray dog for French fries.
yeah, because you can bathe in the river. There's nowhere to bathe if you're in an alleyway.
Yeah,
it's a worse situation.
Probably more food options are available by the river.
You could catch fish in the river.
Yeah, I would
It's a
like
great
that.
place to have your van.
Yeah, I mean not in the river, by the river.
Right by the river.
You guys
Not
are,
if it's a river that floods, but
No, yeah.
you're describing Darlene's thought process As Dan lays that out for her. She's like, that actually wouldn't be that bad.
I wouldn't be in an alley. I'd be in a van somewhere. So, after Dan delivers this powerful monologue, the phone rings, and it's a call for Roseanne. Darlene runs and picks up the phone because she wants to get away from all of this scolding and guilt tripping. Darlene tells Roseanne that it's Mrs. McElroy.
Oh, I thought she said Macklemore.
No, she didn't say
I was
McElroy.
like,
That's even harder to say. All of these people's last names in this episode are very hard to say.
Yeah, I don't think they get the construction guy's name. I think they change a couple times.
Spikemore or Spikelin
Spikelings.
Spike
something.
Man.
Spikelings.
Spike Man.
I think they say Spikelings at some point too. Who knows?
Why can't his name just be Jones and just make it easy for everybody?
Spike's Construction.
Yeah.
So Roseanne doesn't want to talk to Mrs. McElroy because she probably sucks, and she's like, Tell her that I'm not home. So Darlene is like, you want me to lie? And Roseanne says yes. So what does Darlene do?
She tells the truth.
She says, my mom said to say she's not home, and then she slams down the phone and runs out of the room. And this would have been a perfect place for Roseanne to joke about killing her daughter, but she lets this one slip.
Yeah, she's just not on her A game at that point in time.
Well, she goes on to describe how she's a woman on the edge.
Yeah.
Dan, I am a woman on the edge.
Although Dan is having his own set of problems. He's a man on the edge because he can't find batteries.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got this like T-Rex toy that he's taking apart now.
Well, let's talk about the logistics of that. When it starts out, it's very strange. He has a T-Rex in one hand and he has the flashlight in the other hand. Mm-hmm. And he takes batteries out of Darlene's radio. At the end of the scene, the Tyrannosaurus Rex is still moving, so probably still has batteries in it. So he probably didn't actually do anything to it.
They skipped about 4 minutes of dialogue where he was looking at the different battery sizes and be like, "Oh, these are C. I need D's."
What do you think happened in the reality-verse world?
He broke their toys because he was mad. He was like, I'm going to break everything that uses a battery because you keep stealing my batteries. This will stop you kids forever.
So Dan starts going off about how he just hates buying batteries because,
Also, let's go back and talk about logistics for a second. How is that a complicated thing, buying batteries at the store?
Oh, they don't have that much money. I guess he just doesn't like to spend
Well, it's not a fiscal issue. He says he has to spend half a day looking for the batteries in the store.
Like he's got to browse between the A's and...
Were batteries more complicated in the 1980s?
He was just being stupid.
Yeah, or drunk.
Yeah.
Or both.
It's probably really hard to pick batteries out when you're drunk.
All right, so in the reality verse, Dan went to the store drunk, and because he was so drunk, he couldn't find batteries, and he got really confused, and it took him half the day to sober up and find batteries.
And then he got really angry at the store clerk for not being able to tell him which batteries he needed.
Or maybe he can't read, so he keeps forgetting what the letters are for the batteries that he needs.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. I agree.
He might be
So
illiterate.
he's like, they're like, get some double A's, and then he comes back with W's, and he's like, I thought these were double A's. They're like, Dan, you got the wrong batteries again. But they don't, and he's like, I hope they don't suspect. Is there an episode where Dan learns to read in the future? Like episode 5?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
Maybe
This is just a theory.
Maybe there's the sub-dimension version of it, and we haven't decoded that episode yet.
Okay. Oh, wait.
We need to keep an eye out for the episode where Dan secretly learns to read.
There must be an episode in the future where Dan gets really smart for 24 hours.
Oh, God, it's like Flowers for Algernon.
or the 1996 hit Phenomenon with John Travolta.
Where was that one?
He got struck by what appeared to be a meteorite, but was actually he had a brain tumor.
Whoa.
It had Forrest Whitaker in it and Robert Duvall.
Oh, man.
Was that around the time of Michael?
I think it was the film he made before Michael.
Okay.
He lost a lot of the Pulp Fiction street cred very quickly.
Immediately ruined it. Anyway, Dan's complaining about the batteries, and Roseanne goes on a spiel about how she's a woman on the edge. Then Dan starts talking about how he's putting in a bid on a drywall job today for Spikeman Construction.
Oh, it's Spike Man.
It's either Spikeman, but sometimes it sounds like he says Spikeling.
Maybe Spider-Man?
Spider-Man Construction.
I work for Spider-Man Construction.
Hands in tight with Parker, and yeah. So he talks about how he's got this bid that he's putting in, and Roseanne just crushes his faith in his ability by suggesting that he's not going to get it.
Yeah. I guess, okay, so in the subdimension idea is that she is tearing him down in order to get himself to build himself up.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So she's like, you suck. And that's so that he can say, no, actually, I don't suck. And I'm, like, fucking awesome.
He's
I'm a
Dan
beautiful
the drywall
animal.
guy.
I thought John Goodman was with us for a second.
But then, in the reality, she's like, you suck. And he's like, you're right.
Well, no, he gets really angry.
No, he gets really angry. He throws his chair, and he's like, fuck you, Roseanne. You always say I suck.
He does tip over the chair.
But no,
Right,
no,
she
maybe
kept
he
that
just
part.
throws it, and he's like, I threw it by accident.
Right.
This isn't a joke.
In the subdimension, he still knocks over a chair in anger, but in the reality, he threw the chair.
Okay,
It
in
doesn't
reality,
even look
through
like
the
he
chair.
makes a motion to knock that chair over.
No,
Like, he just touches
flies.
it and it flies.
He's
maybe-
enormous, so it...
And maybe he just says nothing, because he just says nothing. He just throws the chair, and he's like, then he walks away, just walks out. And that's what happened in reality.
Roseanne hears she's going to put in the bid, and she says, you're not going to get the bid. You're going to get too drunk. You're going to fuck it up. You always mess it up.
And then he throws the chair, and then he walks out.
Fuck.
To go put in his bid.
I didn't say fuck you. Both of you guys did. I wanted to say it.
Okay, sorry.
All right, I'm in the
We've
party
already earned
now.
an explicit rating on iTunes.
Oh, we just went up one.
So Dan goes and he macho struts out of the kitchen. He claims he's drywall master of the universe, and then Roseanne laughs at how angry he is and rolls a little T-Rex toy across the table to end the scene. So, scene 2, back in the kitchen with Roseanne. She is making dinner, crushing up what appears to be a bag of potato chips and pouring them into a casserole dish.
Yeah, it's casseroles with potato chips on top. It's delicious.
I
Yeah.
had those.
That's a good
Pretty
thing.
good. That's total. That makes sense. That's Midwestern, right? That's American.
That's blue collar. It's
That's
not
a-
Midwestern.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in the living room, Darlene is trying to kill DJ by launching him with a catapult that she's making out of a board.
DJ actually manages to look smug about to be being catapulted. He manages to look smug and smarmy about even that. And I don't know what he's doing, but I can see why they hired him.
Sal Baron would have done a better job there.
Sal Baron would have played that seriously, I think. He would have
Yeah.
played it a
Straight,
bit more
yeah.
serious, and he would have been more like, what the hell? Yet you actually expect me to think this is going to work.
Or he might have turned the tables on Darlene because he didn't like her.
He would have
so-
stared at her, smoldering with rage.
So Roseanne runs in just before Darlene is about to jump onto the catapult and launch DJ, and she makes a joke about how, what have I told you about killing DJ in this room?
Darlene says, clean up the mess.
Yep.
Oh, wait, what did she say?
Something like that. I
Don't
don't
leave fingerprints.
know.
Brain goes in the garbage disposal.
Provided Dan has fixed it.
Everyone in this house has gotten used to just joking about death.
Yeah.
This is
They
a
live
morbid
very close to
household.
death.
This is the screened version too. This is a violent household.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is subdimension.
Mm-hmm. So Roseanne is upset. Tells Darlene to go clean her room. Darlene says, "Oh, my room's clean." Roseanne just tells her, "Go clean my room then." Everyone
That was
laughs. And then you hear Dan entering in the kitchen, and he's singing a song, which is like Pomp and Circumstance, or da 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 da.
Yeah.
Like he just graduated, but he's got beer and pork rinds. So Roseanne comes in and immediately puts together that means he got the job, and he claims again that he is drywall master of the universe. Dan
Official title.
Drywall Man, official title. That's what his business card says.
You got pork rinds. That means you got the jab.
You got the job.
Is that how she says it?
You got the
You
job.
got the
That's how
jab.
she says it. So Dan says this calls for some hardcore festivities, but what he really means is this calls for some hardcore drinking.
It sure does.
It sure does.
He cracks one of his beers, and immediately he's like,
He
Oh,
lifts
yeah.
it well over his head, and it all flows into his mouth. It's like an
Doesn't it?
impressive barroom feat.
It looks like real beer.
I wonder how many times they had to do that.
well, you saw the can. It says beer.
I know,
This is
no,
real-
it looks
That's
like.
real
as
beer.
it gets.
But the liquid looks like real beer too.
Well, he was a bartender in real life before he got his acting.
Yeah, maybe
career,
you
so-
learned to do that as a bartender.
That's-
Maybe they got drunk on set
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
beer that was labeled beer. I'm just saying.
You know what would be
very
really
possible.
confusing if they put soda in the beer can and beer in soda can.
That would be. That was their way of like drinking on set.
Make it
Pacifying
interesting.
the kids who are always drinking that soda
Yeah.
and stuff labeled soda.
They've orange.
We want them to act a little more goofy. Well, give them some beer. We'll
Yeah.
get the performance we require out of them.
So Dan goes on to describe how old man Spiking, whatever, called him into his office and gave him this long lecture about he's picking Dan because he knows he wants the job done right, and he knows Dan can do the best job because he's a master of the universe
I
and all
think
that
Dan's
crap.
just making that up. And
Yeah, no,
Dan's
no.
like,
yeah,
I
obviously.
severely underbid everyone because
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
desperate for work.
That's the reality. Spikeling called
Right.
him into his office. He's like, I know you're not going to do a good job, but you were by far the cheapest bidder by, I don't know, 50%. You really have no idea what you're getting into, but we're going to give you a try because I don't have that much money.
And we have to talk about the money situation up front.
Right.
So Dan gets $500 as an advance, and Dan and Roseanne immediately begin to start talking about how they're going to spend the money,
Mm-hmm.
which is strange because you should be spending the advance on the supplies.
Right. And Dan does buy some supplies with it, but yeah, that's what the advance is for.
It's not to just go on a cash spree.
No. It's not a gift.
But instead, all of them immediately begin planning their cash spree.
Mm-hmm.
All of the children.
But everyone is super excited that they're rich. Becky's celebrating because of that, and
Oh, we have to. So there's this weird exchange where Dan tells Roseanne that he deserves a kiss, and Roseanne says, "Becky, why don't you kiss your father?"
mm-hmm.
That's kind of a weird incest joke to be making.
It is.
It's a
Well,
little bad.
Roseanne just doesn't want to kiss her husband, but it's
So
creepy.
she's passing that
She's passing,
chore
yeah.
off on the oldest daughter.
Becky, you kiss the drunk man.
Dan. Yeah, that joke, I just don't want to think about what that meant in the reality.
No.
So
No.
let's just pretend that
Let's
that
just
was
go
an
past that.
invention of Roseanne. She just added that in there because she thought it meant they seemed like a happy family.
Right. So the whole
Jokes like that.
Yeah. So the whole family is excited because they're trying to figure out how to spend this money, and Dan says, "Hey, we gotta pay bills with this. We gotta be responsible. Let's chill out on all the fantasies." Then Roseanne turns around and starts suggesting that they've already figured out what they're gonna do with the money, and they're gonna buy a swimming pool for the kids with a 50-foot slide, and goes on this long
A shark.
a pet shark.
No. First they're like, we're going to build you a swimming pool. And then the kids are all like, yay.
Yeah.
And she's like, we're going to put a slide in there. And they're like, yeah, we still believe you. And then she makes the joke about the shark. Then Dan does this big exaggerated, yay, I'm really annoying.
Guzzles more beer, and the
Guzzles
kids
more
are all
beer.
disappointed because they realize that the parents are just being
Yeah.
assholes.
They immediately, their faces fall, and then they just walk out of the room. Like, all right, not going to get in a fight with the parents today about how rude they just were to us.
That's how the scene
I
ends.
can't believe we fell for that.
Insane.
Insane. Dan pouring beer into his mouth. Perfect scene ending. So now we go to scene 3. Back to the kitchen. 3 scenes in a row.
I think they changed. Did they change the lighting so it's like later?
They might actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good
I
call.
bet the white light was supposed to be daytime, early day.
The blue light.
Yeah, the blue light. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the yellow.
That
and
didn't
red on
work.
now. No. We're getting things figured out. So we're in the kitchen. There's strewn snack food all over the table.
Ah,
It
the table's
looks-
messy.
It looks gross. And Dan and Roseanne are crunching the numbers. They're in their evening wear, trying to figure out how to spend the money. They've got their calculators
Evening
out.
wear.
Just, you know.
It makes it sound like Roseanne is like in a ballroom gown.
No.
Dan is in a tuxedo.
Dan's in a crummy like shirt with a number on it, I think.
67.
Yeah, he's got 67.
I feel like that used to be a thing. That people would wear jerseys that didn't have names on them, but just had numbers on them.
Yeah, you can still get those for like little kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just numbered shirts. People
Yeah.
like being a number. People don't like being an individual.
No, that's bad.
No.
Then you have to have a personality, and it gets complicated.
It's much easier if you're just 67.
Yeah.
So they're talking about how they need to spend the money. Dan starts going on about how he knows what Roseanne would buy. Roseanne gives him this comment, Dan, you may share my bed, but you do not know me.
That's pretty funny. I
That's
thought that
kinda
was a pretty funny joke that Roseanne said right then.
She sure did.
But you do not know me.
Right. And so Dan is just egging her on because he knows that she really just wants this perfume, which he refers to as subscription.
Ha 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 ha.
She corrects him with submission.
I thought that was a pretty good joke as well. Subscription. It's
you
like
were a
she's rubbing the samples on her face all the time, and that's her favorite perfume.
We were a little
That is a
confused
really
about
good
who was submitting to who.
With the actual submission
yeah.
name, yeah.
So when I first heard submission, I was like, weird. Roseanne is such a strong personality. Why would she want to submit to anyone?
You're like, is it ironic?
Yeah, is it ironic, or is she like, is this the only way that she can express any weakness at all because she must remain strong constantly in order to make sure that things don't just come crashing down around her because of how irresponsible all the other adults around her are? She has an irresponsible adult man who's like a child, and then 3 actual children to depend upon her.
And then I was like,
The
no,
lost
it
soul
means
sister.
men are submitting to Roseanne. And you're like,
Right.
oh.
That makes her a much less complicated character. It does make more sense, though.
So Dan immediately got right what he thought Roseanne would buy with the money, which she agrees, yes, she would buy the perfume. And then he tries to get her to guess what he would buy. She won't do it, so he just goes right out and tells her about how there's this bell at Fulton Avenue boat store that he's been eyeing for a
Man,
while.
probably the only thing she could guess was beer.
You know, here's a logical note. They live in Illinois, like ways away from Chicago and a ways away from the lakes.
Yeah.
In a small town, it's kind of weird that there would be a boat store,
Yeah.
like in the
Yeah.
middle of flatland USA.
Yeah. Dan is really excited about this bell that he's been eyeing up at the boat store, and Roseanne just puts his boat idea down.
As she should.
Right? She says something, Dan says, "What do you think I'm making out there in the garage?" And Roseanne responds with, "A hideous mess."
A hideous
Which
mess.
is, I think, the funniest joke of the entire episode. Because the boat is the funniest joke of the first season.
I think we all had favorite lines this episode.
That was definitely mine.
What was yours, Patty?
Are
we gonna get to
have
it?
we
Are we
already
gonna-
said it, or I can't remember if we already said it or not. Man, I don't know. It's really hard to pick a favorite. I'll get back to you on that at the
Okay.
end.
Mine is in the next scene.
Okay,
Okay.
good. So, they continue their conversation about paying off bills, and Dan comes to the sad conclusion that they'll only have $11.87 left after they paid off all their bills, so maybe they're not going to live in luxury, and Roseanne jokes, well, at least I can go to dinner. And that's when Roseanne decides to throw out the idea that they save money temporarily by just sending the wrong bills to the wrong collectors or tearing up bills, pretending they didn't get it.
So by
Forgetting to sign
committing
checks.
fraud,
Yeah.
By committing fraud and just basically being irresponsible.
which is surprising because I would have thought Roseanne would be the responsible one.
Not in this episode.
No.
She's the
Dan,
irresponsible
for whatever
one.
like they both end up being irresponsible, but for whatever reason, Dan is like trying to be the responsible force.
Right.
Oh, he's a fucking liar, though, man.
Oh yeah.
'Cause he
She
was
rewrote
gonna-
that.
Okay, I don't want spoils.
Okay.
Any
okay.
spoil.
So Dan is stopping this idea, Roseanne's going on her spiel about doing all this stuff, and Dan says, "No, we can't do that. That's illegal." Recognizes that she's just doing her stand-up routine for him, which she normally does.
Yeah.
And she starts teasing him for having made some really embarrassing impulse purchases in the past, including a handy wrench and an electric fish scaler.
It's nuts because the handy wrench is a necessary thing for his job.
Right, yeah.
The fish scaler might not be.
No.
Maybe, but unless he goes on business trips to the lake.
Handy wrenches are pretty inexpensive, too.
Yeah, he said it was $19.99.
Yeah.
Which, that's like $50 max in the 80s probably.
Yeah,
or maybe
50, 60. Yeah.
He wrote that off as a business expense on their tax return because it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But fish scaler, I don't know.
No.
Does he ever catch fish for a living?
Yeah,
I
I
bet he would.
He doesn't have a boat, so he just catches whatever swims near the shore.
Okay, so that was a luxury purchase that he didn't need. He just bought it for the boat.
That's how they got Michael Fishman, get it?
And so Roseanne is teasing him, and he gets angry, and he tries to accuse her of also just wasting money, but he can't think of a single irrational purchase that she's made.
Because Roseanne is a goddess.
Right, of course. And this is
never
probably,
makes a mistake.
It's probably different than the reality.
Oh, yeah, that's part of her fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Dan really thinks that they need to start acting like adults finally, and he starts yelling at Roseanne about how they need to be responsible. Roseanne acquiesces and then asks if there's any chance that Dan will ever be working on the truck standing out in the driveway whenever the truck's brakes don't work.
Oh, so insinuating he's going to get run over.
Right. She wants to kill him.
Or she wants him to die so that everyone else can survive. It's kind of like, you're the weaker link. Your death will help us to have a better life. Please, Dan, consider this sacrifice for the sake of your family.
And the audience laughs. Cut scene 3. Start scene 4. We are at Wellman's Plastics. Enter Roseanne and Jackie. Jackie is lecturing Roseanne about how she would just go up and head and buy the perfume.
She appears to both promote saving money and spending money fiscally wisely, and also Roseanne splurging and buying perfume.
Yeah, she criticizes Roseanne for having poor money handling skills.
And then in the very next sentence, she's like, just buy the perfume. Just buy it.
Just buy it.
Just buy it. Nobody can tell you what you can and can't buy. Buy it. You can never save money. You're always buying things.
You're always going to be poor. Just buy your perfume. Roseanne, though, claims that the reason that she's always out of money is because she has kids.
That sounds like it was real.
That's a legitimate
that's
reason.
Probably true. And then Crystal comes in saying that the whatever machine they're using at the plastics factory is broken. So they're basically just on break until somebody gets this machine fixed, which... They're not as happy about that as I thought they would be, but...
Maybe they don't get paid for breaks.
They might not. I think they get paid based on the quotas that they finish.
Yeah.
So they're just inconvenienced. Crystal...
Oh, right.
Crystal starts discussing with Roseanne about how she and Dan should take the money to go to this cheap romantic motel in Aurora.
Did she say flea motel or cheap motel or theme motel?
Theme motel.
Okay.
It's a flea motel.
Flea motel.
What's a flea motel?
I don't know, but it sounds awesome.
Well, they have like a Roman room and, I don't know, they have
Wild
themed
West
sex
room.
rooms. Yeah.
Roaring 20s.
So Jackie, of course, makes a joke about Dan cruising around on his chariot buying a six-pack because he's a drinker.
Dan's known for buying six-packs.
And Crystal is just like, get out, you know what I mean, and then looks sad. Like, we do know what she means. She's talking about them going and having sex. That's what she means.
Yes, she means intercourse.
Living vicariously through Roseanne's love life.
Right. And
Somehow.
and the audience doesn't laugh at that.
I think it's an
not a joke.
illusion. This is an allusion to future Crystal revelation.
Right. Crystal's sad. That's her character.
She needs a man.
She needs a man.
She always needs a man because she's always missing the man she lost and trying to fill the man-shaped hole in her heart.
Sonny.
Sonny. She lost Sonny. He fell in the bridge.
Yeah, poor Sonny.
She would have gone to that flea motel with Sonny.
She would have taken the Roaring 20s room.
She would have taken the bridge construction worker room.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
You get to fantasize about having sex with the bridge construction worker.
Ah.
Everyone's favorite fantasy. So the girls step outside. The women step outside into some kind of alleyway, and there's some ADR explaining that the machine's going to be ready in 5 more minutes. This is where Roseanne's playing with some paint. It feels like they should be on some kind of cigarette break because they're outside, but they're not. They're just reading papers and waiting to get back to work.
Maybe Roseanne didn't want to promote cigarette use to the youth watching her show.
Possibly, but we will see some of her coworkers smoking cigarettes in the break room, which is kind of weird because they don't do that anymore. But so Roseanne returns some money to Jackie that she owed her because now she's feeling guilty because Jackie just shit all over her money handling skills.
Wasn't it like a small amount?
It was like $25.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
$25 then or now?
Then.
Okay.
It was a good amount. It was a good amount of a loan, and Jackie just returns the money to Roseanne and tells her to spend it as a down payment on the perfume. So she
as a down payment on the perfume, like it's that expensive, like it's.
Well, it's probably pretty expensive.
How much is perfume?
A lot, too much.
Is it $200?
Yeah, sometimes.
In real life, like today, now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
You can spend
it was then too.
Yeah, it's like a luxury item.
How much do you think submission was back then?
Probably pretty expensive.
$500.
I would.
No, it was probably $250.
Yeah, it could.
I was probably happy then.
Could have been like $100. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So Jackie starts giving Roseanne shit because Jackie starts saying that Roseanne is acting just like their mother, and this is a trigger for Roseanne. So they start arguing, and Roseanne lays down the bombshell that their mom used to pay kids to play with Jackie when they were little.
And then end scene.
Jackie laughs. Jackie's like,
no,
nuh-uh.
Jackie seemed kind of like she believed her.
Mm-hmm.
And it might have been true.
Right.
Wow, what a sick psychological game to play.
That's where the reality comes through, because that might have happened. Because she was, yeah.
How could they ever talk to their mother again? I can't believe she became a regular character in later seasons. Disgusting.
Yes. Change scene to Fiddick's department store, where Roseanne is at the perfume counter, just kind of ambling around, gazing at the perfumes longingly.
Fiddick's is a weird name.
It is. It is a weird department store name.
Oh, and Roseanne's wearing this awesome flannel and sweat jacket combo.
Yeah.
Isn't she? She's wearing that combo.
She looks like a school bus driver.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's looking cool. And this is where she's going to be discussing perfume with Christina Pickles,
who later played Ross and Rachel's mom on Friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
accomplished actress.
No, not Ross and Rachel. Ross and
Monica.
Ross and Rachel. Whole other thing. That tells you how well I know Friends.
So Roseanne starts asking Christina Pickles, who doesn't have a name in the episode, but starts asking her about submission. She is interested in this perfume. The perfume lady asks her if she's interested in, and then she lists all these other weird scented products that have the submission name on them. The eau de toilette, the creams, and
body washes.
Mm-hmm. Roseanne, though, just wants the perfume, and the woman is stressing that this is just the first step in the process of fragrance layering. And Roseanne stares blankly at her.
I like the whole backstory of having Lance as a boyfriend that drives a race car.
Right. So Lance comes up because Christina Pickles is trying to get Roseanne to tell her a little bit more about herself. And she asks if she's married, and Roseanne says no. She just lies about not having a husband. And that's where the Lance story starts.
Also, and I don't understand this, Christina Pickles at that point in time had been insane elsewhere and had been in a couple of soap operas and had a legitimate name. And she'd been in the industry for a while, but she just randomly popped up for a one-off in the Roseanne universe.
Yeah, maybe she knew Roseanne. She knew the rep, so
yeah.
Christina Pickles saw what was blowing in the wind, and she followed it. She's like, "This will be a good thing on my resume in the future."
Yeah.
This Roseanne.
Yes.
However, I don't like this whole subdimension deal going on. Can't believe they're writing this in. Can't believe they're planning for season 9 to reveal.
So Christina Pickles is stressing how this perfume will allow Roseanne to just delight her wonderful boyfriend Lance, who sounds sexy.
I know. Awesome job, Roseanne.
Roseanne delivers a wonderful line where she just says, "That's what I live for, to excite that man," because Roseanne doesn't live to excite any man.
Oh, my favorite line is in this scene. Christina Pickles asks Roseanne, "What's the quickest way to a man's heart?" And Roseanne says, "Through his chest." Like Mortal Kombat.
Like a murderer.
Yeah.
Was this before or after Alien?
After. Like a decade after.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
So Roseanne caves, buys the perfume, and we end the scene. Then we cut to the garage where DJ is playing by himself with a squirt gun. He's engaged in a squirt gun battle with Darlene. And Dan enters the garage with his brand new bell, which he also caved and bought, because neither of these two are responsible with money. He doesn't have the bell out when he gets in the garage because, you know, he's being real secretive about it. And he comes in and he sees DJ playing, and he scares DJ off by acting large and intimidating. And
there are animals in cages in the garage, just random animals.
They have a garage full of animals.
It looks like they're preparing for Noah's Ark.
This is an animal-loving family. The animals don't really get brought up that much.
There's no subplot ever of animals.
There's one minor subplot when the storm hits. I think.
Oh, right, yeah.
Becky's real worried about one of the guinea pigs, but there's only one, and they have a garage full of animals, so it's kind of weird. So Darlene walks in on Dan while he's kind of playing with the bell a little bit and admiring it, and.
So wait, Darlene comes in, and he's been polishing his bell.
Yeah, he's been
She walks in on him polishing his bell.
He's been ringing his bell out in the garage.
He's like, "Don't tell your mother."
And then he drops his bell.
This is our little secret.
He's startled, and he drops his bell, and it just rings all over the place.
Oh
my god! And he gets hair on his palms.
No!
Ringing the bell.
And Darlene wants to play with his bell because it's neat and shiny.
No, she
and
doesn't
big.
want
It's a really big bell.
But Dan...
She's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
It is a huge bell.
So Dan says, "No, you can't play with it. This is a surprise for Roseanne.
This is an adult bell.
This is an adult surprise." Darlene asks what would happen if she spilled the beans to Roseanne, because, you know, she might ask Darlene, and Darlene has been guilted into only telling the truth this episode. This is an episode about telling the truth.
Right.
Well, Dan says, "Well, they'll take you away and put you in with the foster family." And... No, wait. Okay, actually, he's like, "Nothing will happen.
You should just
lie."
lie.
What does he say?
You should lie. I think he suggests that she lied because it would be better.
Yes.
Bad things will happen if she tells the truth.
Right. So Roseanne...
That's messed up. I can't believe the message that this episode is sending. Not even considering all the subtext.
So Roseanne pulls up in the car, and Dan says, "Hey, get out of here." Roseanne's home. We see Roseanne entering the kitchen. She's got her FedEx bag, and she's got her bag of groceries, and she scrambles to hide the perfume. Well, first she takes it out, and she's smelling it, and she's, you know, enraptured in it, and then she hears Dan coming in, and she freaks out and
hides it under the sink.
Right. So Dan
How
comes
the
in.
heck is she gonna even like pull this perfume out and wear it at any point in the future? Like the minute Dan smells it, he's gonna know it's submission, and
maybe
he's just gonna like, or she might lie and say, "Oh, I picked it up at the drugstore. It was
She
nothing."
probably
Yeah,
lie.
that's probably what's gonna happen. She's gonna get rid of the FedEx bag. She's gonna put up,
Ah, man, messed up. So
Very.
much effort.
It is. So Dan comes in, and Roseanne is in a panic because she just hid this stuff. And the first thing she can say is, "Hey, I got you some corn." And
Corn.
this is a
Corn reference number 2
for the episode. So Dan is being helpful and putting the groceries away with Roseanne. He's gonna put the dish soap away. And she panics because that's where the dish soap goes under the sink, and that's where she hid her perfume. So she tells him, "Oh, no, that goes somewhere else now." Dan knows what's up, though. So
Yeah, he figures it out very easily.
Roseanne's trying to hide the perfume. Dan catches her, and Roseanne says, "All right, I got the perfume. Kill me."
Ah, jeez,
Roseanne's just a death obsessed.
That's like the 8th death joke of this episode.
It's the funniest thing in the Connor household. They love death. And then Dan starts moralizing about how, don't you remember our conversation last night, acting very high and mighty about being responsible, starts guilt-tripping Roseanne and scolding her. And Roseanne's like, well, maybe I shouldn't have bought it. So Dan starts to take this and suggest that maybe she would feel better if he went and bought his bell, too. And that's really the only way to make things right, because no one's going to feel better if she just returns the bell.
And this effectively becomes the gift of the Magi by O. Henry, in which two people are poor and buy one another the gift the other one desperately wants, into the selfish version of Gift of the Magi, in which the people buy just what they want,
right?
And they don't care about the other person.
They blow all of their money on things that they want. Dan starts hinting that maybe it would be better if he bought the bell, and Roseanne, something clicks in her brain because she immediately knows how selfish Dan is, and she puts together that he bought the bell.
Yeah.
She goes, "You bought that bell."
And Dan denies this and says, "No, I didn't. No, I didn't." And then
"Yes, you did."
Looks her straight in the eye and says, "I didn't buy that bell." And then
DJ comes running into the scene holding his father's big, shiny new bell in his hands.
And he's,
with the most smuggest
without any
fucking
protection
look
on
on his face.
He looks like the smuggest asshole in the world.
Yeah, he's like, "Look, Dad, I'm an asshole.
I'm ruining I'm salting your game. You're not getting away with this lie."
If you were Dan Connor, wouldn't your children be afraid to do that?
You would think so. So maybe...
maybe DJ gets protected by Roseanne the most, and the two girls, they don't get protected.
He speaks
but DJ
out.
does, and Dan's got this thing, I don't know, there's probably some weirdo family dynamics, which I'm not going to go into.
Good call.
And Dan is just broken by the bell. His ruse is up, and he drops the wonderful line, "Ask not for whom the bell tolls." Roseanne responds, "It tolls for thee, butthead."
That's not how it was in the original version.
So, thus concludes our tale of the Gift of the Magi for selfish people, because both of them realize that they have been horribly irresponsible and they blew their money.
Oh, there's the ending scene.
Right. So now they're dealing with their loss, and we cut to the living room, where Dan is furthering his foot fetish and rubbing Roseanne's feet.
This is canon. He's got a foot fetish.
Furthering, we mean last episode he had a long monologue about falling for this other girl when he was dating Roseanne, who would slide her shoe over her toe and dangle it.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a foot fetish.
He has a foot fetish, yeah.
And they're just confirming it with this scene.
Right.
I bet that's one of the running in jokes of the season.
We'll have to keep an eye out for it, yeah.
More foot talk from Dan.
So Becky comes in, and apparently she got some designer jeans because they felt bad that they spent all the money on themselves, so they just spent a bunch of money they didn't have on other people too, or at least one of the three kids. One of the three kids got something nice.
Probably the one that didn't do anything bad.
Right.
Becky's got some great 80s designer jeans, which they are worried about being too tight, but by modern standards are pretty hilarious looking.
Yeah.
Pretty hilariously baggy.
High-waisted, mom jean-esque. Not quite mom jeans, but they're...
No, they're mom jeans.
They're mom jeans. Yeah.
So Becky's thankful that she got these designer jeans, and runs out of the room. Dan finishes rubbing Roseanne's feet and claims that it's his turn now, and that he hasn't actually been rubbing her feet out of love, but, he wanted something.
Self-motivated,
of course. But, Roseanne guilts him into continuing to rub her feet, and he starts playing with her toes sweetly, and that's how the episode ends.
Sick.
It's gross.
It's absolutely sick.
It's nauseating when you think about the whole episode. Nothing good has happened. They have no reason to be feeling good about themselves, but they're feeling pretty good. And we actually closed this episode with a weird empty 360 of a disgusting kitchen table.
Yeah.
Nobody's there, but there's just a lot of garbage and disgusting old food on the table, and it ends with DJ running in and grabbing.
No, he doesn't run in. He pops up from under the table. He's been
Yeah.
hiding under the table the whole time.
He lives under the table. We haven't seen his room yet. He might just be living under there.
That's a good point.
Grabs some nasty cookie that was just on the table, right on the tablecloth, and just grabs it and disappears. Like, I'm gonna eat this under the table. I've been eating cookies for an hour under the table.
Yes.
DJ.
And thus concludes episode 2.
You know what we should start doing?
What should we...
Right now, when we finish the episode, we should list what our favorite part of the episode was.
Okay. For me, my favorite part of the episode was when Roseanne made a sarcastic joke about Dan's stupid fantasy boat in the garage being a hideous mess. I thought that was great. Because it is a hideous mess. It's just going to disappear at some point, and they're never going to speak of it again, which I think is the perfect way to get rid of that plot device. So what are your guys' favorite parts?
My favorite is when Christina Pickles asks what the quickest way to a man's heart is.
Yes.
I love the just random violence of that.
My favorite part's, of course, when Darlene surprises Dan polishing his bell. Because how could they not know how you could read that? That's disgusting. What? Ah.
Okay, so that is the end of episode 2. Thank you very much for listening. We again implore that you like us on Facebook and
YouTube, and follow us on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter.
Wait, are we on YouTube now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe
If we
you.
have one.
Yeah.
If we're there, follow us, please. And Tumblr and all of our social media stuff. What's our Twitter name again? Rosie
Retros.
Rosie Retros. Listen
Rosie
to all our
Retros.
hilarious.
Our YouTube
tweets.
channel is Roseanne Retrospectives, and our Facebook is Roseanne Retrospectives.
Yes. Okay, so thank you. And so this is Roseanne Retrospectives signing off. Thank you for listening.